Hello and welcome. It's a good day to be on the farm. Thanks for coming back. This is Calmsden episode 4, and in this episode we're finally moved on to the second month of the year because we finished harvest in August and now it is September. And I parked my tractor down by the house. We're just driving back to the field at this point. I'm a little lost, but finding my way. And basically, we're going to head back there to start the first job of the day. In fact, I made a wrong turn, so let's turn around. Anyway, in this episode, we're going to move on from harvesting and begin preparing the field farthest north from our farm, which has already been cultivated but needs some fertilizer. So that's what we're going to do here. Thanks for watching. And finally, after the great tractor switch of 2022, we are ready to begin actually planting in this field number 2, our farthest north field. Now, we obviously harvested 3 and 6 in the previous episodes and baled all that stuff up and stacked those bales and put those away, but this is the first time we're actually sowing into a field in this series, and it is September, so our two choices there are barley or wheat. And I think we're going to go ahead and do barley, which is what we took off the main field, our field 3. But this field number 2 came to us already cultivated, and we need to get something in the ground while we prep 3 and 6 for planting later in the year, in the spring, or I guess next year. We want to have one of the fields at least doing something, and obviously we saw us lime this field in August and then just fertilize it earlier in this episode. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually going to draw a giant rectangle on the field, sort of. So again, I do tend to use workers on these larger fields, but the workers get a little bit lost with these abnormally shaped fields that we have. So one of the things that I like to do is kind of line it up and get as close to that 90 degrees as we can to draw a straight line across the field. And then we're going to just basically pull this and establish the bottom of the field, and then we're going to do the same thing on the sides and the top. So hang in there while I show you a time lapse of me setting up the field for a worker. And that is a pretty good rectangle. We have finished off the north side, the east and the west side, and we're going to run another strip south here and then start defining that southern border once we get this lined up that we have of the field, just to make sure. Yep, there we go. So that essentially we don't have to go and drive into these little corners of the field that are abnormally shaped anymore, because those have already been seeded. As you can see on the map here, we're just running down this east side one more time to the south, and then we will start kind of layering the southern side of the field just like we did for the rest. It is a bigger triangle down here now that I'm looking at it on the map, but that's okay. It won't take us that long. But once we have this done, then we'll be able to start a worker on finishing off this field like we did for the other areas. And the reason I'm doing this second kind of diagonal here is to give the worker enough room to turn around so that he doesn't get lost, or stuck. I guess not really lost. They just, sometimes if they find the edge of the field and they're too close to it, they just think their job's done, and they, job's done, quit. And then you have to come back and start them again. And sometimes I don't notice that because it doesn't really do much other than put it in little green text at the top underneath our bar there that tells you what time and what day and all that stuff it is. So basically, once we get this done, then the field will be as good as planted, if that worker doesn't quit on us, which he shouldn't, because we're doing a really good job of making sure that this is easy to plant for him. So then we can move on to working some of the other fields as well, now that we're kind of past the harvest time in the game, and past the harvest time with our fields. We just need to start prepping these other fields for replanting here. Later in the year? I don't know. I haven't really gotten around to figuring out exactly what I want to do with the other two fields. I just wanted to get a winter crop in this one since it started cultivated, so that we were kind of ready to go on this one, and we didn't miss the opportunity to get something in the ground. We'll probably get one of the other two planted as well, now that I'm kind of working through that process and thinking about that. But I'm not really sure with what or which one we'll plant, because we've still got to cultivate. And I mean, obviously we've limed field 3 over there to the left, you can see a little bit of, but that's going to need fertilizer, that's going to need cultivation, and then that's going to need planted, and I don't think we're going to get all that done in time for winter wheat or winter barley. Possibly. But also, and I know that we've talked about this in the last episode a little bit, but I'm trying to figure out what crops that we want to actually plant, so that we can kind of either move into one of the productions, or we can move into animals. And I guess animals is kind of a production as well, but something other than just randomly selling the crops as just feed, or as what they normally are, just actually turning them into something. That's one of the really cool things about Farming Simulator 22 is that you have an opportunity to just not just stop at making wheat or barley. You can actually turn those things into flour with a flour mill, or not just making milk from your cows. You can turn that into butter or ice cream or something, besides just the milk. Or not making wool from your sheep, you can actually turn that into clothing, textiles. Well, I think you turn it into cloth, and then you can get another factory to turn that cloth into clothes if you really want to go that route, which, whatever you can. But basically, it just gives you the flexibility to take these things to an end product rather than just selling the parts, so to speak, or the ingredients, I guess is maybe a better term, since a lot of these are food-related products. But that's, I think, like, I've found myself always drawn a little bit to baling in these games. I just really, of all the things, I tend to do that the most. And I'm not really sure why, but as I'm thinking about it or talking about it, baling in general is making a product on the field. And so in FS17, where they didn't have these production lines, basically you would it felt more rewarding to mow and then ted and then bale, or mow and windrow and then wrap and bale that way. You know, then you'd have a product that you'd have to run around and pick up and then you could take and sell. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and get this worker started on this field, head north now, and then we'll switch to our next task. So thanks for hanging in there, and we'll catch you after the next time lapse. Bye-bye. And welcome back. As you can see, we're just finished refilling our fertilizer and checking the map here. That worker is still going up on field 2. That's another reason I like to draw those rectangles on there. It's really easy to see if the worker's making progress that way without having to judge if he's missing the margins or anything. But I digress. We're going to be working on fertilizing the remainder of this field here. And then this one will be almost as prepared as that north one was minus cultivating. So we've limed the north one and then fertilized the north one, and now we're planting it because it was previously cultivated. In this field here, the first one that we harvested, it kind of works the other way around. So, excuse me, we're actually, we still limed and fertilized in that order, but we're actually going to cultivate after, so we have a nice bed of grass to plant on whenever we decide to do that. And looking at the progress we're making in September, I think October you can still plant some crops, so depending on how things shake up the rest of today and how fast cultivating goes, we might actually have a decent shot at getting this field replanted too before the winter, which would be nice to have 2 fields germinating, or at least growing over the winter. That way we've got less things to do in the spring, because hopefully in the spring we'll start to move forward on some of the other things we've been talking about, like animals or production facilities. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at with this part of the video, but I just wanted to kind of give you that update. And we're actually wrapping this fertilizer up quicker than I thought. I apologize if you can hear me breathing heavy. I actually just got done running a mile, which isn't like me, and also isn't recommended before recording audio for your YouTube videos. So lesson learned, but here we are, so we're going to power through and finish off strong. So after we're done with this fertilizer, I think the next step is going to be to figure out what we're going to do for a cultivator here on this farm. So we'll just see how that kind of goes. I think we originally took our cultivator back down to the shop and sold it. So we will see what solutions we might come up with from that. So we're going to drop this fertilizer spreader off somewhere. Maybe back in here. Don't know if there's room to turn around in here or not. Oop, guess not. Well, bump the wall, bump the sprayer, and success. So that's good. But let's see. We're going to turn that off and take a peek at this and flip through our vehicles to find our Kloss. There we go, our Kloss Axia 940. When I purchased this at the beginning of the series, I made a point to have enough horsepower for a cultivator that I wanted to try out. So we're going to run down to the store and see what we can do about getting a cultivator ready. In fact, I may have already bought it when I was spending money at the beginning of this series, so bear with me while we drive down to the store and see what we can pick up there. Well, while we've got a second driving down to the store to pick up our cultivator, actually was going to take this opportunity to talk to you about something else that I really enjoy that's not farming simulator related, which is baseball. It's April as I'm recording these, and April's always a great month because the baseball season is back, and I get to enjoy seeing how things unfold in the National League West, where most of the games that I watch are located. So I'm a Dodgers fan, a Los Angeles Dodgers fan, and have been since about 2011 or 2012. My favorite player is Clayton Kershaw, who has obviously been a Dodger that entire time. And he's a lifer. Thank goodness he came back to the Dodgers this year on a one-year deal so that he can hopefully break a couple of records and finish off his career there. So before I get into that, though, look, here's our cultivator that we picked up earlier in this series. I'm not exactly sure when. And then we're actually going to jump into the store here and get ourselves a weeder as well. Now, I spent about 2 minutes in-game looking for this weeder, so I just cut all of that out for you so you don't have to watch it. And we're just trying to decide between this 9-meter weeder and this other one that is 12 meters. So we went ahead and went with this one, which you will see later. Obviously you can see that, and our windrower that we got on sale earlier in the series. But man, this cultivator is huge. That's a tight fit to get out of the store here, and an even tighter fit to drive down this road with all these overhanging trees. So I'm going to guess you wouldn't see a cultivator quite this big in an English farm, or a farm in the English countryside where the roads are like this. And yeah, that view is going to be ridiculous, so that's why we're going to do an in-cab view for a minute. But I digress. Back to baseball. So excuse me. So yes, I'm a Dodgers fan, and I'm a big fan of Clayton Kershaw. And this season, a couple weeks ago at this point, but he came out for his first game in Minnesota and pitched 7 perfect innings, and then got pulled from the game by Dave Roberts. And of course, at the end, him being a team captain and the face of the Dodgers, so to speak, or one of the faces at this point. There's a lot of superstars on the team now. There weren't in 2011. And he said he agreed with the decision because it was his first start of the season. They had a shortened spring training. He hadn't been stretched out all the way. But he had a chance to pitch, I believe, the 34th perfect game in Major League history. He had 7 perfect innings, so he just had to come back for 6 more outs to do it. And of course, they pulled him and put in a relief pitcher who promptly gave up a hit. And then they finished the game as a one-hit shutout, which ain't too shabby, but is not a perfect game. So, obviously, if you listen to sports radio or if you're a baseball fan, you already know about this and have heard plenty about it. But I thought I'd just give my take because, hey, this is my farm sim channel, and I can talk about what I want. So, anyway, I ultimately am a little sad I didn't get to see Clayton have a chance at pitching a perfect game. He does have no-hitters, or at least one no-hitter on his resume, along with 3 Cy Youngs, a MVP, and I believe 8 All-Star appearances. So clearly a great pitcher. Future Hall of Famer. He has a award-winning curveball. That's what made him famous back in the early aughts. And then, he has developed that into a couple different pitches as he's gotten older, and his velocity has dropped. And now his slider is probably his best pitch. And I believe, if I remember the stats, of those 21 outs that he did get in his 7 perfect innings, I think he had 13 strikeouts, and 11 of those were on that slider. I think one was on a changeup and one was on a curveball. So clearly the slider is his most dominant pitch, or at least the one that was working best for him that day, but still obviously known for that curveball and just being an amazing pitcher in general. So I don't know. I was sad to not get to see him try to pitch a perfect game, but it would have been heartbreaking to see him blow it in the 8th or the 9th as well. And I've seen Clayton, lose his fair share of playoff games at the end of a game. So I didn't really want to see that. So I was actually a little bit relieved as well that Dave Roberts took him out. And, it's kind of now we've got this thing to talk about, the what if. Would he have done it? Was it a possibility? What would have that looked like? All those, kind of things that you ask. And these great conversations that are coming out of it, where had he done it, obviously it would have been talked about, it would have been amazing, but had he blown it, it would have just been like, oh, well, never mind. So it's been interesting. Obviously he came out the next start and pitched 4 more innings where he did not give up a hit or a walk, and then he gave up a home run, and then he gave up 3 runs in the next inning, or was pulled from that inning or something like that. So would he have done it? Who knows? Did he pitch 9 perfect innings to begin the season? Yes. Was it all in the same game? No, it wasn't. So, that's what it is, but I believe he is still leading the league right now in wins at 3, because he obviously won that game that he almost had a perfect game in, and he got another couple of wins after that. So off to a good start, so to speak. But I just wanted to take a minute to kind of talk about that, because that's really cool. And you don't get to see that every day, and who knows, maybe he'll have a perfect game yet. But he's also getting older, and he's in his 15th major league season, so it's maybe unlikely that we'll see him be, as dominant as he's been in the past. Plus, over the last few years, he's had injury issues, and he looks healthy now, and he's pitching great. But that doesn't mean that he's going to maintain that throughout the year. And as you get farther into the year, June and July, the hitters tend to heat up, and so it's harder to get those kind of crazy kind of games in the middle of the summer as it is to get him in April and in September. But yeah, so baseball, that's a thing. And obviously, just to look at what the Dodgers have done over the last handful of years, from the World Series appearance in 2017 and 2018 to the not World Series appearance in 2019, after they set their franchise record. Ooh, that was loud. I apologize if that blew out your ears. I tried to get the microphone out of the way before I sneezed there. But in 2019, when they actually clinched their 106 victories to set their franchise record for the most wins the Dodgers have ever had, I actually went to 2 of those last 3 games in San Diego, because my sister lives out there, and got to see Kenley Jansen pitch his 299th and 300th career save, which was really cool. And also got to see Jock Peterson hit a couple of home runs in a game. Max Muncy hit a home run. And can't remember if Bellinger hit one or not. I don't think he did. But that was the end of his crazy 2019 season. After his was it his 2018 MVP? I'm not as big of a buff on Bellinger stats, although I do really enjoy him. And let's talk about Bellinger for a second. 2021 was ridiculous. But he will always be the guy who hit that home run to take the lead in the NLCS game against the Braves the year they won the World Series. And had he not hit that home run and threw that bat down like a man, we wouldn't have went to the World Series. We wouldn't have won the World Series, and Clayton Kershaw would still be an angry, angry boy. So glad to see all of that. I'll always enjoy Cody Bellinger just because of what he did for the Dodgers that season. So, but he had a terrible 2020, an even worse 2021. But he came back in 2022, and the first couple games were shaky, but he just had a multi-home run game the other day, and now he's leading the Dodgers in home runs, or tied for leading them in home runs with 3. So that's pretty cool. I think it's safe to say that he's making a comeback, at least at the beginning of the season. Hopefully that holds up as well. Anyway, that is going to do it for the rest of this episode. I appreciate you putting up with my baseball talk. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you want more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.